Hey, I'm Keith Vaughn. Welcome to the Keith Vaughn channel, Keith Vaughn's Flying Circus, and welcome to my road trip saga from July 26, 2025. Making my way up into the eastern portion of the top of the Texas Panhandle to Lipscomb County, Lipscomb, Texas, specifically. And on board, I've got some family artifacts that are going to be turned over to the Wolf Creek Museum there in Lipscomb. But to get there, you've got a journey, and we journey through Quanah, Texas. Yeah, named after Comanche Chief Quanah Parker. It was a beautiful day, and the blue sky was heating up everything. Temps were rising. No rain in the forecast. Out on the southern Texas plains, and the trains were in motion. And lots of trucks on the road. Here we are, making our way into Childress, where we will then stop heading west and head north. There's the old jail and the courthouse in Childress. Check out that old RV. Gas it up. Got relatively good mileage in the Ford Edge ST. And twin turbos on the highway are great. Wasn't out of gas, but thought we'd fill up. And back out on the road on the Texas 83 heading north. And over the Red River. And Flat Top Bob's place. This is Owen Salvage, and it's a monster salvage yard. Look how far it goes. This is the automotive end, too. There's a farm and heavy equipment end down the road a ways here. We'll be passing it, too. This makes up a big portion of Wellington, Texas. Flat Top Bob. He's kind of a legend in the hot rod world. And on we go up 83. Aircraft from the United States Air Force. I'm gonna say that's probably Altus Air Force Base. That's my guess. Now into Shamrock. Yeah, right there ahead of us. Route 66. Here we are, tooling right downtown Shamrock. There's a Texas Theater off on the left. And on the way, one of the most famous landmarks and destination points on Old Route 66. And one of my personal favorite places on Route 66. The Conoco, yeah, the tower station, and the U-Drop Inn. Beautifully restored. And we cross Old Route 66 and continue on 83 into Wheeler, Texas. And Wheeler's old jail and their courthouse. Yeah, football is king in Texas. Moving on. Canadian is, I believe, our next town on the route. Entering Canadian. Canadian's a beautiful, small Texas town, and right now we're only seeing a small part. There's the cattle exchange, and they got great chicken fried steak. Quite a bit of family has lived in Canadian over the years. On down the road we go, over the Canadian River. And on the other side, the old train tracks. They've left them up and turned it into a walkway. Very great idea for repurposing. And we are getting into Dixon territory, Hill territory, and some Spurlock territory as we approach Glazier, Texas, going down the road. And the land is starting to look more and more like that northern panhandle flat land. Here we go. This is Glazier, Texas. Very quiet place. On down the road. Now making the turn as we start our approach to Lipscomb, Texas. Had to stop and check out the just unbelievable, complete flatness and desolation of some parts of the panhandle. It's amazing. And of course, get a shot of the ST on the road. And quite a big road it is. On we go, making our way up Texas 305. Getting back on board the ST. Now, the final approach on Texas 305, heading north to Lipscomb. That is Lipscomb, where you see the trees. That is Lipscomb. At one time, there were no trees, but over the years, it has become a very shady and lush town, kind of an oasis in the panhandle. I believe the population is about 35 to 40, maybe 45 at this time. I also heard 37 was the count. And here I am pulling in to the Wolf Creek Museum. What a great museum. And here's the marker. It tells you all about Lipscomb, Texas. I've heard family stories of when they came to Lipscomb. Some came on the train and got off at the town up the road. And some came in wagons. Here's a marker commemorating how Wolf Creek, just up the road, was a spot where the Indians would stop and camp during hunts. Now inside the Wolf Creek Museum and some Panhandle golden eagles. Great display on the veterans of Lipscomb County, going all the way back to World War I. All of these items donated by families and very well kept and respected by the great crew at the Wolf Creek Museum. Some great displays from World War I to World War II. There was a display for numerous conflicts, and then one big display for those killed in action. Yes, all the way to Vietnam. And those who gave all from Lipscomb County. Now on to the museum artifacts. Here's the medical area. Almost all of these items are from here, right in Texas, and nearly all from right there in Lipscomb County. Used in either Lipscomb or Therazette or Glazier or Higgins or Canadian. All of those towns in this region. Ladies. All kinds of remedies and medicines, treatments, ointments, pills and powders. All medicine from the past. Yeah, Oklahoma City hospital bill. Check out those outrageous prices. And the machine to check your eyesight. And now on to the schools from the area. The Follett Band. There's the Higgins Band from years ago. Man, look at all those students that these schools had enough students to field football teams, baseball teams, basketball teams. 1927. Check out that gear. this, I believe, is the lock. I believe it's the lock to the vault at the Follett Bank. The old classic way of making a phone call was to the operator, and she would connect you. Here's the old board, and mic and headphones, and a printing press. And I believe this one was used by a local newspaper. I want to say it was Follett's. It might say here on the sign. Yeah, the way you used to make a call. They have numerous organs and pianos in the collection. This is a beauty. Look at that. This was over in their church display area. That's the piano that played the music accompaniments to the silent movies over at the Darrazette Theater in the 20s. Yeah, played to the silent movies. Now off to the kitchen. All kinds of great examples of the way a kitchen used to be. It's amazing we have come a long ways, but something tells me that the food tasted great. And a phonograph. Classic old phonograph. Hey, check it out, Dennis Day and his orchestra. Ha ha ha. And a Dodge from 1916. Dodge Brothers touring car. That's a great example in pretty good condition. Dodge Brothers. Yeah, one time this was considered a luxurious ride. All of this on display at the Wolf Creek Heritage Museum in Lipscomb, Texas. Wow, speedometer goes to 60. I don't think I'd want to do 60 in that. There we go from the Dodge Brothers ride, going back in time to the covered wagon and what it was like on the inside. Hey, just like a modern RV. It's got a stove and a place to sleep. Yeah. amazing. That's the way travel used to be. And here's how farming used to be. John Deere tractor. That Magneto. I used to work on those when I was a younger man. In a previous job, long ago. John Deere. Acid adding machines. Again, most of these items, these particularly from right here in the Lipscomb County area. Tricycles. Yeah, kids too, man. Kids of the day. And their toys. This one with a personal story. I believe the young lady from right there in Lipscomb rode that bike when she was just a kid. Old wagon. More tricycles. I just don't see many tricycles much anymore. This organ. Wow. Amazing. There's no doubt this had to have been in a church, most likely at one time. Now check this out. Train set. I believe set out to represent Booker, Texas. I should have asked him to turn this on. Man, there's a lot of work in that setup. Amazing. Well, this Wolf Creek Museum in Lipscomb. And this classic buggy. From the days before the automobile. And the whip to keep your engine running, your horse moving forward. And again, for its time, that was a luxury ride. Now this fascinated me. This is a wagon made by a company all about the marketing. The name of the company in big letters. Sold by H.A. Hamby. Notice all of the paint and the trim decoration on this. It's kind of like pinstriping back in the day. The decoration on the wheels. There's no reason for that, just other than to make it look nice. and the model of the wagon on the back. The Mitchell. Check out the classic braking system and the paint decoration on those brakes. The spokes are painted. The Mitchell wagon. O.H.A. Bracken Company, Otis, Kansas. That's a hot rod wagon of the day. Yeah, the way you used to get your mail. Yeah, down at the post office. I remember going to get my grandmother's mail back in the day. Now, what do you think this is? Well, that would be a cream separator. I don't believe that's something many of us have any use for in 2025. And this sewing machine. Look at that decoration, the ornamentation on this thing. That's beautiful. That's amazing. Oh, the old style roller skates, the ones you attach to your shoes. I remember those. I tore up a number of pairs of my sister's. And the brands there in Lipscomb County and across the Texas Panhandle. Now those are real cowboy hats. And working cowboy saddles. Those from the ranch and some of these military style. This is crazy. A bear skin coat. And these are genuine working cowboy boots. That's a real deal. Yeah, it's a great museum in Lipscomb, Texas. Wolf Creek Museum. And of course, we couldn't shoot everything in the museum. We only had the afternoon. We had other things on the agenda. But man, the time spent in the museum was awesome. I do recommend it. They got a great staff there. They can answer any questions. And check out the Winchesters. And back to the Eagles. Now we're about to make our way out onto the road and into Lipscomb, Texas. Just driving around the town. Yeah, town established about, 1886, I'm going to guess, roughly. And here it is in 2025, July 26. You know, there were big hopes for Lipscomb. They knew that the railroad was going to be coming into the area, and they were hoping to entice that railroad to Lipscomb, and they knew that if they had a railroad, man, prosperity would follow. Yeah, that's what my great-grandfather thought when he came to town. With my grandfather. There's the county seat, the Lipscomb County Courthouse. That's right. This small place with about 30 to 40 residents is the county seat, and they've got that beautiful courthouse. Here's the law enforcement building here in Lipscomb. We'll just make a left here, continue around the courthouse square. Courthouse was built in 1916. My father was born just outside town on Sand Creek in 1917. That is a nice example of a small Texas town county courthouse. Most of the structures back in the teens and 20s were wood. Here we are back on Main. There's the Alamo Saloon, and these are the surviving structures from the day. Now, many of these buildings are on spots where 4 or 5 or 6 different buildings have been over the years because the buildings had always been timber, made of wood, and usually always would catch fire and burn. Now, this bank building is a good example, made all of wood, but it has survived. And the Union Church. This is the church building where my grandmother, where her services were held in 1917 after she passed from hemorrhaging after giving birth to my father. Just up the road, it's Sand Creek outside Lipscomb. That's the church where her services were. The marker tells a great story of this church. Organized in 1908. I was here a number of years ago, and the door was open. We went inside and checked out the interior. Today, not open. Locked. Probably not a bad idea. Well, a survivor from pioneer days. This building, on the interior, completely like a bank with the teller windows, everything. Now we'll pull back out onto the road. Now here's a great story. This third building, the third one over right here, that is the exact location where my great-grandmother and my grandfather once had a meat market in the early 20s. They operated that market for a while, and then it burned down. Made of wood burned down. They lost the market. Hill Meat Market. I believe it was Sheehan Meat Market previously. And again, making my way back around the courthouse. The window treatments are beautiful in that upper, very top deck, very top set of windows. And the front with a war memorial and a historical marker. And there, old jail. Well, I don't know what it is about Texas courthouses and hanging on to the old jails, but I do like it. Now back out, driving around Lipscomb. You can see some of these locations where homes used to be. And right next to one of those locations will be a home that's renovated up to code and standards and got a family in it today. Here's a classic example of the old abandoned homestead. One of many in Lipscomb. And it has survived fire. That's amazing. And making our way on up to the next intersection and the old school in Lipscomb. You can see it right there. Have to show off the old International to my buddies. And I saw this guy. Living the good life in Lipscomb. Seemed to be a happy guy. Or girl, I don't know. Probably girl. All right, I've had enough of you. I'm out of here. I saw lots of wildlife on this trip, more than I am used to seeing. Saw deer, saw rabbits, saw turkeys, saw a bunch of field mice, saw tarantulas too, heading across the highway on the way home. And the old school in Lipscomb. Check out the classic playground gear. You don't see the real thing anymore. Check out that great slide, even has a hump in it. The swings, monkey bars, love it. Oh yeah, this stuff would be unsafe today. There's the story of the Lipscomb School. Yeah, this is the brick building that replaced the wooden one destroyed by lightning in 22. That event happened over 100 years ago. It's hard to believe. Mind-blowing. Now back out on the road. Again, going down the road right by the courthouse. And there's the spot where my grandfather and great-grandmother's meat market was. Only know that because we found a map inside the Wolf Creek Museum that had the entire town's layout at one time. There it was. Now back around the courthouse again. I think we've seen this piece of footage before. I think I've got a duplicate in here. Oh well. It was a beautiful day. It's worth the drive. And back around to the front. This is duplicate footage. Oh man. Well, it's worth another look. You can kind of see the layout of the square. There's the old bank building back there behind the courthouse. And the church off on the right side of the courthouse. You can see the roof. Man, just a typical Texas courthouse square. The way it survives today. And the old jail. Now out we go. Continue driving around. I think we've got this unbelievable home here to look at. I believe built in the late teens. This is the Douglas House, which was in the day a mansion of a home. This place has fascinated me ever since I first visited Lipscomb years ago. And someone has come along and cut the brush down, which is good, because that was one of the reasons I would not get very close, especially in summertime with tall grass. But on this day, I braved it. This place is amazing. You gotta realize that on the side of this home right there used to be a porch that went between the lower floor and the upper floor. You can kind of see where that floor used to be because there's a door on that second level. Had to be a porch. It will see it from back in the day shortly. Now, I've heard stories that the current owner is planning a restoration. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but that would be amazing. Check out the old electric and telephone situation. It may just be electric. I don't know about phone. And right outside the window of the room in the back of the home, the color of those walls and the woodwork around the doors and the ornament on the wall, the ceiling, and the color of that other room. That color stays after all these years. That woodwork on those doors. And the door handle. There's the upper level. Now, I did not go in and walk around. I spoke with a lady at the museum, and she told me that she knew of a group of young girls, like 8 or 9 years old, who did go in and went up on the second story. They're braver than I am. I'd be afraid I'd fall through. You can see where there was a floor right outside the bottom story, too. That bay window. And this is the view in that bay window. More great woodwork around the doors and the ornamentation on the walls. And you can see off into the other rooms of the home and that closet with a coat hanging in it. If you missed that, you'll have to roll back the video and check it out. Yeah, there was some clothing hanging in the closet. Here's outside on the big porch. Back before air conditioning, a big porch was a big deal. I can only imagine how the family would hang out there. And there is a water pump right there on the porch. Now here I am sticking my camera in another room. The Douglas home. A survivor. It needs to stay surviving. Man, I hope everything is done to make sure this place survives. What a great piece of Panhandle history, no doubt. There's that second story. And there is the way the Douglas home looked in the late teens or early 20s, with a family posing on that second story. Right there. Driving away from the Douglas home, down the back, last street on the grid here in Lipscomb, and then up the county road outside Lipscomb. You got this home with lots of animals, and I do mean lots of animals. Oh, that's great. Check them out. Goats. Now, this is the county road right beside Lipscomb, Texas. This is the road that will take me to the Lipscomb Cemetery. The very road the procession went up in 1917 with my grandmother, who had passed after giving birth to my father. You can see the cemetery right here at the top of this, the crest of this hill. Cemetery that is still used today. And here she is, in the top eastern portion of the Texas Panhandle. So, we go in. Many of these graves date way back to the pioneer days. I'd been here years before, but I still could not exactly remember the location of all the graves, the headstones. Lots of familiar names I'd heard spoken about by my Mom and Dad, my grandparents, and aunts and uncles. And then I found it. Hetty Inez Dixon. Hetty Inez, wife of my grandfather, Melvin Eugene Hill. Born in 1896, I believe. Passed away July 10, 1917. 1890, for her birth in July of 1890. Never got to know her, but I feel like I know her. And here she is. Always beautiful. There she is, courting with my grandfather, probably about 1916, 1915. Here she is with friends in Stratford, Texas. And again, with my grandfather. Yeah, the way they used to get around. Hetty Inez Dixon. And then I found my great-grandparents. W.P. Hill and his wife, Ardella. William Parks Hill. He had a farm, homestead, on Sand Creek, and was known as a breeder of livestock, mainly of workhorses, from what I've read. And there he is, in the center, sitting next to Ardella and his family. Here he is, with one of his horses. Here he is, visiting a neighbor. And again him, with the hand, the big hand, in the middle. And this is why I made the trip to the Wolf Creek Museum. This book of postcards, all postcards sent to my grandmother between around 1910 and 1917. Sent to her by friends, family, and my grandfather. Some are just cards, some were put in the mail, written on, some have got messages on them. There's over 100 in this book. And we knew the place for them would be someplace where the history involved here would be respected and used. And that's the Wolf Creek Museum, where most of these cards were mailed from or to, or in the surrounding area. Yeah, some are goofy and funny. Yeah, and some are very serious. I love how my grandmother wrote on many of these. There's one addressed to her in Glazier, Texas. One for Halloween. And there's one addressed to her when she was in Stratford, with the message there. one for the 4th of July. And another comedy postcard. The Talkative Woman. And commemorative cards from Travels. And this one to Hetty from Rhoda. Rhoda would be Rhoda Spurlock, another relative. To my dear girl, from my grandfather. To his wife, my grandmother, Hetty Inez Dixon Hill. Man, I hope you enjoyed my journey. Kind of a personal road trip journey. I've got more great content on the way. I would really appreciate your subscription and check out these other videos. Hey, thanks for watching.